Chapter 3: Escape from the Market. The professor moved quickly, his pace surprisingly swift for a man of his build. Jake, still unsteady on his feet, did his best to keep up, his senses overwhelmed by the chaos of the alien marketplace. Strange creatures bustled past, their voices a cacophony of clicks, growls, and hisses. The air was thick with the smells of exotic spices, unfamiliar foods, and the pungent odor of alien sweat. The professor led Jake through a maze of narrow alleyways, the crowds thinning as they moved away from the main marketplace. He glanced over his shoulder, his eyes scanning their surroundings.
"They'll be looking for us," he said, his voice low. "We need to get to my ship."
They reached a small, nondescript building, its entrance hidden in the shadows. The professor pressed a series of symbols on a keypad beside the door, and it slid open with a soft hiss. They stepped inside, the door closing quickly behind them. The interior was dimly lit, a stark contrast to the bright sunlight outside. The air was cool and still, a welcome relief from the heat of the marketplace. The professor led Jake through a short corridor to a small room. The room was sparsely furnished, containing only a table, a few chairs, and a large metal trunk. The professor walked over to the trunk and opened it, revealing an assortment of strange devices. He pulled out a small silver device and handed it to Jake.
"Put this on," he said. "It will disrupt the control band."
Jake looked at the device, then back at the professor. "Will it hurt?" he asked.
"It might sting a little," the professor replied, "but it's better than the alternative."
Jake took the device and placed it against the control band on his neck. He felt a sharp sting, and then the band fell away, landing on the floor with a soft thud. He rubbed his neck, the skin feeling raw and tender. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude.
"Don't thank me yet," the professor said. "We're not out of danger."
He grabbed a bag from the trunk and slung it over his shoulder.
"Come on," he said. "We need to go."
They left the building through a back door, emerging into a narrow alleyway. The professor led Jake through a series of winding streets, his pace quick and determined. They reached a larger street, and the professor stopped, looking around.
"My ship is docked on the other side of the city," he said. "We'll have to go through the main square."
The main square was crowded and chaotic, a swirling mass of aliens and strange creatures. The professor hesitated, then took Jake's arm.
"Stay close to me," he said, "and don't draw attention to yourself."
They entered the square, weaving their way through the throng of beings. Jake kept his head down, trying to avoid eye contact. He could feel the eyes of the aliens on him, their gazes curious and predatory. They reached the edge of the square and turned down a narrow alleyway. The professor led Jake through a series of twists and turns, emerging into what looked like a makeshift spaceport. Jake recognized the area, realizing this was where he had spotted the spaceships earlier. They approached the professor's ship. It was a sleek, low-profile vessel, its hull a dark, matte grey that seemed to absorb the ambient light. The ship's design was striking, resembling an arrowhead in its overall shape, with sharp, angular lines that gave it a sense of speed and purpose, even while docked. Jake noticed subtle, glowing blue lines running along the ship's edges, pulsing with a soft, internal energy. The ship's cockpit was a single, seamless canopy of dark, reflective material, offering no glimpse of the interior. It looked both utilitarian and advanced, a testament to the professor's resourcefulness. I sank into the seat, the worn fabric surprisingly comfortable against my skin. A low, steady hum filled the ship, a sound that resonated deep within the hull, a gentle vibration that seemed to lull my senses. Then a barely perceptible lift, a subtle shift in gravity, and the ship began to move. A slight strange pressure pushed me back into the seat, a brief disorienting sensation that quickly faded, replaced by an odd weightlessness. My eyelids grew heavy, the constant hum and the gentle motion weaving a hypnotic spell, and I drifted off into an uneasy sleep. When I awoke, my eyes snapped open, disoriented, my heart pounding slightly. I blinked, trying to clear the lingering fog of sleep. The cabin was a chaotic jumble of screens, wires, and scattered datapads, a testament to the professor's hurried departure. I must have fallen asleep, exhausted from the ordeal. The hum of the engines was a constant, soothing drone. a stark contrast to the cacophony of the slave market. I turned and saw the professor at a cluttered desk, his brow furrowed as he studied a series of notes or holographic displays, his movements precise and focused. He paused, looked up, and a faint, almost weary smile touched his lips.
Good, you're awake.